Hello, I'm Lisa Peterson, the founder of Wealth Clinic. Welcome. I am going to be talking today about learning the habits of billionaires, millionaires, how when we do that, it can help change our lives financially for the better. I wanted to just welcome you and thanks for watching. I hope you found the videos that I've been creating over the past week or so helpful. I'll be continuing to do that for the coming week or so. And the goal was to answer questions that were coming in from my listeners and my readers and to dive into topics that would be most meaningful for you to change your own life and feel like you're on the pathway to creating wealth. So what I thought I would do today is dive into actually an ebook that I've had for many years out there. You can access it, and when I post this, I'll give you the link so you can go in and get direct access to it. It's called 5 Simple Steps to Creating Wealth Mindfully. But I'm just going to be doing a quick synopsis of that book, taking any questions. If you have them come up as you're listening to it, feel free to post in the comments at any time. Even after this video isn't live, I'll be able to go in and answer your questions. When I first put this book together, I could see that I had a different look at, a different outlook at how to build wealth from my own perspective, mindfully, soulfully, heartfully. That has been the big shift in my life. When I first set out to becoming wealthy, when I was young, I made a really strong decision that I wanted to have wealth and security in my life, and that caused me to make a series of decisions and choices along the way. What also happened is I learned the things that I could do to build wealth, but that weren't actually bringing me the happiness that I sought. And so I made modifications to this book based on not just creating it in the regular practical world, doing whatever it takes to make a lot of money, but how can we do this very mindfully and soulfully? And that's what happened with the book. So again, the book that I'm going to be reviewing is 5 Steps to Creating Mindful Wealth, and I'll give you the link when we're done with this call today. But the first chapter of this book, and it's just a short book, but the first chapter is about setting your mind for wealth. And the first thing I would say is a lot of times what was very interesting to me when I was a financial advisor is very few people, no matter how much money they have, actually ever feel like they would consider themselves to be wealthy. Very interesting to think about, because it means that there's no there. So oftentimes we think, oh, I'd like to be wealthy, but we never actually feel like we're wealthy when we have, $1 million or $2 million or even $5 million net worth. Because what happens in your life when you build wealth is there's always going to be someone who has more than you. Wealth is this sort of elusive concept, which is very sad, because I think that everyone should be able to feel wealthy. And so one of the things that I wanted to do when I put this ebook together was say, first and foremost, give yourself permission to even be open to the possibility of becoming wealthy. Like, just even in this moment, realize if you've made a decision that it's actually never going to happen, no matter how hard you try, or whether you're making a conscious decision to become wealthy in this lifetime. The reason that's so important is I've found that one of the top reasons that I was able to become a millionaire by my mid-30s was because I had made a commitment to bringing that into reality. And I gave myself permission to work towards that goal. Now, I didn't know exactly how it was going to happen, but once I gave myself permission to reach that level of financial stability, I found myself reading books. One of the best books ever that really changed my life was The Millionaire Next Door. I love that book. In that book, it talks about the fact that many times the people that are millionaires, especially in the United States, are not the people that you would think are millionaires. They're not flashy. They're not people that are buying new cars. They're not people that you would for any other reason know that they're wealthy. And they're just living next door to you. They probably have a car that's 10 years old. There's a lot of things that I'll talk about. But first and foremost, these people took an attitude of the fact that they wanted to be financially free or financially secure, and they strove to make it happen. So that's the first thing to think about is that creating a mindset that's oriented to wealth, and permission is a big part of that. Next, and I'm just looking through the book myself, so the next one is know what you really, really want. So people who become billionaires or millionaires at some point or another decide what they want, and they spend whatever time it takes to figuring that out. So if you're in a position right now where you're not quite sure what you want, maybe fear is holding you back. Maybe you have some beliefs that tell you it would take too much time to build wealth, or I'm not smart enough, or I haven't been successful enough to build wealth. Notice those beliefs and realize that they're actually the thing that's keeping you from knowing what you want. Like, they kind of serve as blinders. Those beliefs are limiting, and they keep you from allowing yourself to open up to the possibilities. One of the reasons I created the Wealth Flower exercise that you can access at wealthclinic.com, right there at the top of the page, is because it asks you questions, many questions that inspire you to think about, well, what do I really want? And put it down on paper. I did this for myself about 2.5 years ago, when I was first coming up with the exercise. And by putting things on paper, especially things that I had no idea how I was going to actually bring into reality, I just felt like they were dreams that were very soulful for me. One of them was I wanted to sell our big house, and I wanted to travel. I wanted to live in Hawaii for a period of time. I wanted to not feel like I had so many responsibilities in my life. I wanted to have more freedom. And I allowed myself to dream really big, and I put them on paper. I put them on my nightstand, and I would check back again and again with and I started to share these dreams with other people. I shared them with my coach. I shared them with my husband. I shared them with my kids. And wouldn't you know it, one by one, each of the things that I had written down started to come into reality. And there are a few things that are still coming into reality around my business, but I promise you that I got pretty quick satisfaction by the exercise. Within probably a few months, things started to shift and change in my life just by knowing what I wanted and giving myself permission to put it down on paper. So that's number 2. There's 5 of these, right? Any questions? Welcome. Thanks for being here. Shane, I think that's how you say it, Shane. You'll have to tell me if I'm saying your name right. Thanks so much for checking this out and for being here the other days. I really appreciate it. And hi, Galia. So nice to see you here. So number 3 is about mimicking the habits of the wealthy. And this is pretty awesome stuff, because these are things that we can put into use right away. I love this quote by Stephen Covey. He said, "To know and not do is really not to know." So some of the things I'm gonna go through this list are things that we know, but we're not doing. And the difference here is that if we wanna be, moving our life into one of greater wealth, these are easy things for the most part to start to implement in our lives. And they have so many powerful forces that help us going forward. Let's start with I broke them into 3 different buckets. money strategies, productivity habits, and overall health. So the money strategies are that knowing how much you earn, save, give, spend, and invest. Like when you know how much money is coming into your household on a monthly basis and how much is going out, it's one of the most empowering tools we can ever have access to. Many of us don't want to know because we have a sense that it's not going to be pleasant when we look under the covers. Funny thing is I've had so many people come back to me and say, when I looked and did this exercise, the first thing is I noticed some things that I didn't need to be doing anymore, and I could just change my habits. It wasn't that hard to do that. The other thing was that people were like, wow, it's not too bad. Like, I see how this can work. I actually am surprised maybe by your net worth. If you put your net worth together, go through an exercise of knowing, taking all of your assets, totaling them up with a dollar value, taking all of your expenses, so your debts and things that, pretty much mostly would be debts. And then what's that bottom line number, knowing what your net worth is. Sometimes people are really surprised to find out that that number is bigger than they thought. So the point is information is power. And the more information you have about your finances, the more powerful you become. So that's one of the money strategies. I could go into all of these, but I'll just take one from each. So the productivity habits. I talked about this the other day. Planning, having a plan, breaking the plan into small parts, small pieces, is tremendous for actually being able to take action in your life. And so I was just having this amazing interview this morning for my podcast. It was really funny. It was going to be like a half an hour. It turned into 2.5 hours. I'm going to be breaking it into like 5 pieces, I think. But it was with a spiritual teacher that I really, really, really love his teachings. And he was talking about having a plan even for our awakening, for our spiritual understanding, that when we know what we want and then we break it into smaller pieces, it allows things to become more real and tangible in our lives. And so in the interview, he was helping me to break some of his teachings into really small parts so that when you listen to it and you engage in the conversation that we had, you'll be able to actually put those things into practice, because that's what happens. We have a plan, we break it into parts, then we actually take action. So that's one of the productivity habits. And then finally, health. Like the wealthy, the mindfully wealthy understand that the body is this incredible vessel, right? We want to take really, really good care of it. We want to put good food into our body. We want to get exercise. We want to get sufficient amounts of sleep. We want to take really, really good care of ourselves, because when we do that, we're able to show up in the world in a brighter, happier state of mind. We're more productive in getting the things done that we want to. And we're going to feel more confident overall in who we are and what's going on in the world. So those are a few of the things from the ebook that I wanted to focus on. So just shout out if you have any thoughts or you want to share any comments about what I've shared already. So funny. Let's see. I am talking about sleep, and last night was one of those nights that I just did not sleep. I'm not sure if I'm so excited about putting these things together and sharing more of this with other people, but my mind was spinning, and so I wasn't able to follow my own advice last night, and I'm feeling pretty tired. So thanks for being here and for sharing this time with me. Go ahead and post any thoughts or questions, or just give a shout out, because that's awesome to know you're here. So we've gone through, I'm talking about the 5 steps that I highlight in my ebook, 5 Steps to Creating Wealth Mindfully. Number one, I'll just recap because we've had some people join. Number one is to create a mindset for wealth. Number two is knowing what you really, really want. Number three is mimicking the habits of the mindfully wealthy. And then number four is about knowing the keys to income creation. This is a fun one because I definitely was inspired by Robert Kiyosaki back in the 90s when I was deciding that I wanted to build wealth in my life and I was making it a priority. I found myself, looking out to the world, and this is before the internet really took off, but I was very intrigued by Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and several other books of that genre, Tony Robbins, different people that were talking about what it takes to build wealth and investing and different structures and what it meant to create passive income. I became obsessed with this. And I often think how funny, because I remember late at night I was working in, I think, insurance at the time. And I remember I'd come home and I'd read these books and I'd find things to watch. The internet did exist, but it was in a very different form back there in the late 90s. And I would just soak it all up. I would look at forums where real estate investors were sharing information with each other. And I remember thinking, I have no clue how to do this, but I am going to read everything I possibly can about what it takes to build wealth. And I'm going to store it away and I'm going to be watching for opportunities. And it was like it started to orient my mind into becoming ultimately a real estate investor, which is a big part of how my husband and I have built our wealth. But it was the action of being around other people, reading books of people who had done things that I wanted to do that started to inspire me. And so the fourth part of this book is about understanding these structures and of wealth creation. And Robert Kiyosaki, this is where this comes from, is looking that you can be someone who's employed by others, you can be self-employed, you can be a business owner, and you can be an investor. And some of us may be all of those. Some of us may pick one. We probably all understand the idea of being employed. This is the one that oftentimes we have the least amount of control over when it comes to building wealth, because someone might be deciding, how much we're paid, might get bonuses. But what ends up happening too nowadays, you might work for a company that offers you stock options. And so you may be employed, but you also have some investing in the company that you're working for. But you don't have a lot of control over, what the company does, for example, and how much money you're going to make from that investment. The next one is self-employment. So the difference between self-employment and business owner is self-employed would be kind of like, I'm going to look at what I've written. You're your own boss, only dependent upon yourself for your income. The earned income of these individuals is often a direct result of how hard you're working and how effectively you drum up business. So this is like doctors, lawyers, accountants, dentists, right? I think the other way we might think of these folks is professionals. So the difference when you move into a business owner is it's actually the next step, because it's not just like I have this much time during the day to work and I'm trading my hours for dollars. The business owner is someone who starts to build a business where you have the possibility of leverage, for example. So you have a brand, you have concepts, you may be a teacher and you're teaching one-to-many, but you're going to a new level in your business where leverage is being created. And, sometimes also you might think of it as leadership. You're standing out as an expert, as an influencer in the world. Many of us want to move from being a professional, maybe one-to-one coaching, into a business owner. And that's a pretty big leap, because we have to be an expert by doing that thing and then learn how to teach it to other people. And then finally, there's investor. So a lot of people dream of this idea of passive income. Oh, I want to invest and then have money come back into me. And there's lots of levels of investment. Some might be you invest in the stock market, in a company, or something like that, or in a product that isn't even on the stock market yet. You may buy real estate, and that develops an income stream for you. Professional building. You may have rental, Airbnb rental property. What I've found, and then you might also have classes that you sell or you invest in somebody else's business. That's another way to do it. I think that we always have to be careful because there's this utopian idea of passive income. Like, I want to have passive income. I don't want to have to work for that money. And I love it when people are really honest about passive income and say there's really not very many sources of passive income. Maybe the stock market, but that's something that can go up and down and be unpredictable. So we don't want to have all our eggs in that basket when we're an investor. It's nice to have things that you're in control of. And all I can say is that, even when you own real estate property, there's typically going to be work involved. And so it's not totally passive income. You're actually working to make that money. That's okay. That's awesome. That's what my husband and I do. And we're building more and more of it. So that was number 4. And then the last one is take action and stay accountable. So the best thing that we can do if we're wanting to create more wealth and mimic these habits is to be sure that we're taking ongoing action on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis to create. Thank you for all those signs. I appreciate those. Take action, stay accountable, have accountability partners, have people that are doing the same sort of thing, that they've also made a commitment in their lives to building more wealth, work together, share back and forth with each other what you're doing. It may be that you start by reading books and expanding your mind about how you can become, more savvy with money. And that graduates as you learn more, as you take risks. That's not on the list, but it's a big part of this journey. This is part of the reason I like communities so much, is I found that if we keep ourselves surrounded by people who are interested in this, who also want to build wealth in their lives, that idea of the tide rises all ships, we all get to rise in our understanding by being together and supporting one another in our goals and in our objectives and in our dream fulfillment. So building and being around communities that really believe that this is possible for themselves and that we can share ideas with one another is really powerful. That's why I created Wealth Clinic. That's why I create the programs that I do. And I've seen huge impact as a result of people coming together and sharing their stories. Oftentimes, you'll hear someone's story and they'll say, hey, I have not been a saver, and all of a sudden I'm starting to save money, and it started at $1,000 a month, and now I'm saving $5,000 a month. Like, the stories are amazing. And so people think, well, if you can do that, then maybe I can too. And so you start to think in your mind, what is it that I can do to save money? Unfortunately, we don't live in a culture that encourages saving. And so it's really, really good to surround yourself by people who are oriented to that way of thinking. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you so much for joining. There haven't been any questions, any thoughts. Has this been helpful for you? Let me know. I'm having a lot of fun with this. I do appreciate you showing up and checking it out and watching, even if it's on the replay. So again, I'll be back tomorrow, and I look forward to sharing more with you. I'm not sure what's on the schedule, but very helpful. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. So be sure and check the schedule. I'll post it with this video in just a few minutes when it goes into the replay form. And I'd love to see you join again. Feel free to send me questions at lpeterson@wealthclinic.com. I'm happy to answer your questions, and they really help me a lot, because I don't know all the things that you're thinking about, what concerns or, questions, or, you know, like a lot of times, because, you know, I'm standing where I'm at, I don't know the struggles that you might be going through personally. But when you share those struggles with me privately or publicly, it takes a stand for something that you're ready to let go of. So it's really, really powerful. So do use me as an opportunity to take a stand for, like, yeah, I don't want to live this way anymore. And these are the things that don't seem to be working. I'm all ears. I love receiving those comments and questions, and I'm happy to explore them in these updates that I've been doing. So that's it for now. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste. Bye.